Alright, everyone. So today, what I wanted to do now, the main feature of today, is we're going to go over a tier list. I have all the cards from set 2 arranged here, and we're going to just go and rank them all. Now, one thing I want to note about this tier list for whatever... Actually, hold up. Can I just... Okay, I can actually just fix this myself. So let me just do this real quick. Okay, so we have all the cards here, and we're just going to go ahead and order them all from top to bottom. Brodnik has the Shadow Steel. Yeah, dude, Brodnik's Shadow Steel is beautiful. He's got some... I think he has the Business as well, which looks so pretty. Alright, so we're going to just go ahead, and we'll start top to bottom. So, we're going to start with Ice Eagle. I'm going to put Ice Eagle in S tier. I think you could make an argument for it to be in triple S, but I think S tier is really good. And we're going to go the same here. I think, I get the names. This is the Ice Beak. This is Ice Eagle. I think Frost Beak, Ice Eagle. And then we have the final evolution. We're gonna put an A tier. So the thing about this package, and the reason I think this package sees play in pretty much every deck, is because every part of the evolution line is good. The Frostwing is going to be a win condition. The Snowbeak is good alongside Frostwing on turn 9, because it's 7 plus 2 mana, and the Blizzard is good throughout all stages of the game. Snowbeak. Yeah, my apologies. We might get a couple names wrong throughout this, but bear with me as I do this. So let's go next card. Let's go Tedderock. I'm going to put Tedderock in solid D tier. I think Tedderock kind of sucks. His stat line is not very good. And the only reason you would play him, right, is because he evolves into this card, which I would say he's on the border of triple S and S tier. I'm going to put him at the top of S tier. The Stonefur is excellent at wiping up the board, pretty much at all. You know, I'm actually going to say he's triple S tier. He's good throughout most of the game. There are going to be some games where like you don't get a good opportunity to play the Stonefur, but he's excellent at pretty much all times. When you are trying to recover your way back onto the board, like there are certain positions where he will get you back into the game where no other card will be able to get you back into the game. Especially in Standard, there are very few Earthquake cards that are pretty good. Next we have Moss Grizzle. And I forget fully what this one does, so let's check real quick. I think he's got a high health pool, and I think he can't be targeted. Yeah, he's got Fortify. Oh no, so he doesn't have the... I thought he had the effect that he couldn't be targeted by things. Yeah, so Fortify on Moss Grizzle is really bad, honestly. I'm actually gonna lower him to... Actually, I think you could even make an argument that he's worse than Tedderock, but I feel like that's a little unfair, so I'm going to put him in C tier. He dies to... The problem is he just dies to Hydroblast. I think cards that die to Hydroblast are just pretty unplayable, for the most part. Alright, let's look at the Thunderpur evolution line. The Thunderpur is a 2-mana 2/4. I think that's... I think this is the whole evolution line probably fits somewhere in B tier. I think they're all about the same. What I really like about this guy, the Shock Claw, is he's actually got 7 health. So the Shock Claw isn't going to die to a Hydroblast, so I think that makes him significantly better than the Moss Grizzle. But so far I haven't seen a deck where like these cards seem great. And the problem is like the Thunderpur, right? Thunderpur gets eaten alive by the bird. And same for this one. I forget the name of the evolution of Thunderpur, but he also gets eaten alive. Let me find him real quick. Yeah, so Shockmane gets eaten alive by Ocho. Thunderpur gets eaten alive by the bird. So the problem with this evolution line is they just they get traded on for free against other cards in their mana cost. so they really struggle to do well. Additionally, Zap is not guaranteed to hit what you need it to hit. That's just another thing, just kind of holding the Zap mechanic back and these Zap cards back. They're understated and unreliable, I would say. So because of that, we're going to put them in B tier. Baba, I think I'm actually willing to put into A tier. I think Baba is low A tier, but I think Baba is A tier. The reason Baba I think is A tier is because it's one of the few good 1-drops in the game. In addition, for an aggressively skewed deck that wants 1-drops, Baba kind of gets the job done really well. So I think Baba doesn't make its way into a lot of decks, but I think the decks that are interested in Baba are actually very interested in Baba. The Evo trilogy for Thunderpur is one of your favorites for art? Yeah, I do really like the art. When Zap cards die, they do damage? Are you sure? When this card enters the battlefield or attacks directly, it damages too. They don't damage when they die. I don't know where you're getting that from. Maybe, I'm not sure about that. Alright, so what's the name of this one? Scaregoat. I forget the name of this one. So Scaregoat, it's better than this, right? It's B tier maybe? Scaregoat is just not good. Scaregoat just gets, like, when you look at it compared to the Guaking, it's like, it's just so underwhelming compared to the Guaking. Its stat line isn't very good. And I guess the reason you would want to play it is because, like, it evolves from Baba. But I don't see an aggressive deck that's interested in Baba. I don't see why they would be interested in Scaregoat. To me, the cards just are kind of at odds with each other. I don't think the evolution line makes a ton of sense. The Baba is very aggressive. The Scaregoat is very defensive. So I think it's a bit of a confused evolution line. And actually, I think I might even drop it down to C. I'll put it above Moss Grizzle, though. Shadgeist, I'm going to say solid D tier. I can't imagine this card is very good. And then, like, if you get to evolve it into Reapergeist, I mean, you're big winning, right? And then you still get Hydro Blasted. So I'm going to say this is also D tier, actually. Smacky, I'm going to say is S tier. Smacky is very much like the bird, the Snowbeak. It just gets it comes in fast, it comes in hot, it pressures the opponent, it pressures their board. It does a lot of really good things. Smacky, we'll say, is in D tier. Evolves out of Speedy, so that's nice. It's a nice bonus that it evolves out of Speedy. You could maybe even argue that he's B tier since he evolves out of Speedy. I think that's a really good evolution line. The problem is he's got 8 health, and we're going to see this being a recurring theme throughout this. As we continue to do this, a lot of cards that could be good are going to just not be very great in this tier list because they died a Hydroblast. So let's look at our friend Enchilada. I think Enchilada is probably like high B tier. The Echalis it's called? I call this thing Enchilada. Enchalius. Enchilada is just so much easier to remember, dude. Yeah, this guy, he's just a stat stick. He's a good stat stick, and I think you just leave it at that. He's pretty solid. Not great, but he's solid. Alright, so we have the Amy line. Amy, I'm gonna say, is S tier. Bammy, I'm gonna say, is probably B tier. And Whammy, I'm gonna say, is C tier. But probably higher C tier. Maybe like this. The Whammy is actually a good evolution. Going from Amy to Whammy is like decent. The problem is that Amy never sticks for the full turn. I mean, sometimes it will, but I feel like you very rarely get to evolve Amy into Whammy. Like, Amy gets cleared up by everything. It gets cleared up by Speedy. It gets cleared up by Redemption. It gets cleared up by Fangs or by Earthquake. So this thing is rarely going to stick the whole turn to get to evolve, which is the problem with it. So I just think playing this whole evolution line is a little unreliable. I haven't played the evolution line. It might actually be stronger than I'm giving it credit for. Like, maybe they're both like this. But I don't know. For now, I'm just going to say it's like this. I'm not entirely sure. Will this list be posted in Discord? Yeah, I'm going to post this onto YouTube when we're done as well. So you'll be able to come back and refer to it for sure. Let's look at the Yetis. The Yetis, I think this one is going to be B tier. It almost makes A tier for me. But the fact that it's a 3-mana 3/4, I think really holds this card back. I think it's understated for what it does, I think. So I'm going to put it in B tier. And I'm going to put this guy over here, maybe like high C tier, I would say. I think high C tier makes sense. This card would be excellent if it didn't have 8 health, but once again, the Glacetti, like a lot of cards just have this issue where they have 8 health and they are free food for Hydroblast cards. So it's kind of problematic and pretty difficult to play some of these cards. So let's go into these two, the Serb Pup and the Serb Howl. These are bottom of the barrel D tier. These guys suck. I'm going to be honest with you. Serb Pup, you're paying 2 mana for a 2/2 rush. Well, guess what? The water cards get to pay 1 mana for a 2/2 rush. Serb Howl, you pay 3 mana for a 4/3 rush. Snowbeak is a 2 mana 4/3 rush. These cards are just straight up outclassed by all the other cards. And they don't even have a good evolution line. If Serb Howl evolved into like a third thing that was good, then maybe you can make an argument that these cards could be good and playable. But as it stands, these guys are just overcosted and underperform. And that is why they're at the bottom of D tier. So let's take a look at Chunko and Chunka. Those are up next. I'm going to get rid of these two over here. Chunko, 4 mana, what, 3/6? Yeah, 4 mana, 3/6, provoke. I'm going to say that's a C tier. And 8 mana, 8/8 provoke, I'm going to say is also a C tier. I think these guys just are not very playable. They might even be in D tier. Let's put these in D tier. I think these guys are pretty bad. This one dies to Hydroblast. This one is just it just underperforms. So yeah. Coralfin and the other turtle, Reeferback. So the thing about Coralfin is he's a 3 mana 2/2. So if you compare him to any of the other Hydroblast cards, he is the worst stat line of all of them. So we're gonna put him in. I'd consider putting him in bottom of C tier, but I feel like here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put this one in the bottom of C tier, and we're gonna put Reeferback in D tier. So Reeferback is a 6 mana 4/8. So he himself is a Hydroblast that dies to Hydroblast. So he sucks. I would not recommend playing this card. We have Vine Beast, a 5 mana 7/5 with Berserker. So Berserker units want to take damage. Every time they take damage, they gain stats. Problem is, Vine Beast has barely any health. For a 5-drop, he's only got 5 health. So he's going to trade for free with Firon. He's going to trade for free with Ignisteel, with Munta, with anything pretty much. A lot of units will kill Vine Beast without much effort. And that means that Vine Beast is not actually going to be allowed to stick around on the board long enough to get big. So I'm going to say Vine Beast is D tier. I would say he's maybe like higher in the D tier, but I'm going to say he's D tier. Alright, Firon is the next one. I'm going to say Firon is triple S tier. As long as Firon hits, he is the best card in the game. When he hits, he's the worst card. When he misses, he's the worst card in the game. When he hits, he's the best card in the game. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll put him in wild card. We'll put these both in wild card. But I'm going to put these both in wild card. But I want to make sure that it's known that when they hit, they're like this. When they miss, they're like this. Okay? So when they hit, they're S tier. When they miss, they're D tier. These two are the strongest cards in the game. Firon especially, in my opinion, is the strongest card in the game if it were to hit 100% of the time. Yeah, so I'm going to say it's there. Prana, I've never seen this card used. 3 mana 1/6 with Berserker. This guy's going into D tier. Like, what are you doing with this guy? I just don't get it. I don't see how you're ever supposed to use this thing. There's no, like, ways to ping him and get extra value or anything like that. Munta. Munta I'll put in high B tier. Munta I'm willing to put into high B tier. I think he's a really good budget alternative for some of the other cards you could have. Smoko is a 5-mana, a 6/5 provoke. It's going to go into C tier probably. That could also be D tier, but I guess 5-mana, 6/5 provoke is better than like the cards on this line in D tier. So we'll put him there. I'm going to put Obsidian, or no, not Shadow Steel. I'm going to put an S tier. I'm going to put this one in high B tier, maybe. This is either high B tier or low A tier. I'm not sure which this is. I'm going to put it in low A tier just because A tier is looking a little empty right now. So we'll put him in low A tier. He's definitely better than Bat, actually. So we'll put him like this. The Digga and the Digleyfer. Digleyfer, I'd say, is a C tier. And Digga, I'd say, is a B tier. He can become really big in some of the fun formats that we've done. There have been some strategies that have played this card to a lot of success. He's actually, like, when he becomes like a 4/10 or bigger, he puts in a lot of work. So I think he's actually quite good. Grumble. Grumble, I'd say, is also B tier. He does run the risk of getting hit by Fangs, which we'll be doing soon. Fangs will actually just put now in S tier, because Fangs can just trade with a lot of things really efficiently. Let's see. Grimzilla. Okay, this is the one I was thinking earlier. He's got guard, so he can't be targeted. So he evolves from Grumble. He's a 6/8 that actually can't be Hydroblasted, which is pretty good. 6-mana, 6/8 that can't be Hydroblasted. It is decent. It's very slow. Let's see. We put Grumble in B. Grumble is better than Grimzilla. So we'll put Grimzilla like near the bottom of B, maybe. I don't think he's quite C tier. Maybe he is C tier, actually. I think C tier actually does make sense for Grimzilla. Alright, next we've got the Spida and the Archaea. 2-mana, 2/3 guard is pretty much unplayable. I'm going to say that goes into D tier. And then 4-mana, 4/5 guard is like slightly less unplayable, but it's still pretty unplayable. So he's going to go into D tier, I think, as well. D tier really making a nice home for itself right now. There's a lot of people there looking to hang out. Alright, Magma Claw, we're up next. Magma Claw. Let's say B tier. High B tier, I think, for Magma Claw. I think Magma Claw is a really solid budget card. I think, and even in a lot of... There have been a lot of, more of the fun formats where Magma Claw is actually just quite good. I think, this card can just get a 2-for-1, fairly consistently. And it's got a decent chance of living as well. It's 66% chance that it doesn't kill itself when you play it out. So I think this card is a solid budget card. I would say high B tier for this. Let's see. Shadowfang is a 3-mana 4/4. And then Darkstalker is a 5-mana 7/6. These two are... I haven't played them myself, but I have seen other people play them. And they actually do seem pretty good when they get played. I'm going to put the 3-mana 4/4 one in B. And I'm going to put this one probably higher in B. Maybe like around here. Something like this. I think these are fair in B tier. Okay. So now we're up to some of the fun cards. We're up to Barry and Nippa. And so the thing about Barry and Nippa is they're really good. They're both a little understated, but they're really good in full-on aggressive decks. And I think the deck... I don't think people really play hyper aggro right now in set 2. But in the decks interested in hyper aggro, they are very good. The problem with Nippa is that Speedy will trade into him for free. So if I go on my turn 2, I play Nippa, and you go on your turn 2, you play Speedy, you get a free kill. And I'm already losing the board, which isn't a good proposition for an aggressive deck. So I'm going to say Nippa is a C tier, I think. I think that's fair. I think this card is good, though. Like, it might be C tier, but there are certain decks that are actually very interested in the effect that Nippa can provide. Barry, I'm going to say, is going to be A tier. I think A tier for Barry seems fair. He's got a pretty decent evolution coming out of the Nippa. Snowgaze. I would say Snowgaze is S tier, probably just above Amy. These two, what are these two called? Grease and Tar Beast. I mean, these guys just kind of suck. They're both understated. Yeah, these are both solid D tiers. We've got Walla. I love the art on Walla, dude. Whale with a top hat, just absolutely brilliant. The problem with Walla is he's outclassed by Hydromane. Wherever that is. We don't have it right now. But yeah, Walla is outclassed by some of the other... he is better than the turtle. Where did we put the turtle? We put the turtle here. So let's put Walla right above the turtle. Yeah, we'll put him right here. And then Whalejician. Whalejician is just like... he's a grief. Like... sure, you can evolve him out of Walla and like, wow, I'm winning. I just got like some crazy greed play. But he's just gonna get Hydroblasted. You're gonna spend 7 mana to draw 2 cards and get Hydroblasted. On top of it, he's super clunky to play because you need a clean board to actually resolve him as well. I think Walla is probably... I feel so mean calling this card D tier, but I think it is D tier. Let's be a little nicer. It's at least better than like some of these cards. We'll put it like high D tier, I guess. Like, I don't know, dude. Oh, okay, so here we're at a great card now. We have Mechwing. That's going triple S for sure. Mechwing is one of the strongest cards in the format. For sure. This thing can buy you so much tempo. Certain opening hands, if you get off to a fast start and you have like 2 of these in a blizzard, or like this long, yeah, just like a combination of these and blizzards, it goes super hard, dude. Let's go back to this. Okay. Alright, so next we have Steel Feather. 7 mana, 5/8 with Windseeker. I did try playing this card at one point early on in one of my earlier decks, and it's decent. I think I'm willing to put this card into B or C tier. I think I'll put this one in high C tier. It dies to Hydroblast, and it's very expensive to get into play. When I was playing this card, I would often die with it in my hand. I do like that it evolves out of Mechwing. That's like the best part about this card, is that it evolves out of Mechwing. But other than that, it just underperforms a lot of the time, and it does open you up to Hydroblast. So I would recommend being careful playing this card. I would stay away from it probably. This one, what is this one called? Verdeer. It's an 8 mana 8/8 with regrowth. I mean, it just dies to Hydroblast, so we're gonna put this one in D tier. It's probably better than Tetarock though. I don't even know if it is better than Tetarock. I think D tier is pretty good for this. Ocho, we're gonna put triple S tier. Ocho just has that 1 extra point of stats that Barry does not have. And yeah, it goes the distance. Barry might even be worth being an S tier. Yeah, I think actually we can do like this. We can bump Barry up 1, we can bump Munta up 1. And where is... I'll put Galefin in right next to Barry as well. Right behind him. So we've got Zappy and Electrosaur. Zappy is a 3 mana 3/5 with Zap, and he evolves into Electrosaur, who's a 5/6. And they just run that same problem that they just get, just like these guys. I think I'm actually just going to put them all right next to each other. They just all get stuffed by by cards on their same evolution line. It's not that these cards are bad, per se. It's that the enemy cards on the same mana cost just beat them out. And because they get beaten out, it's really rough. And, like, they only just barely get beaten out, right? They get beaten out by, like, 1 health, 2 health. Which, the zap effect could recoup that disadvantage that you get from that 1 or 2 health, like, when you play it. But the problem is because the zap is inconsistent and it might miss, I don't think you can actually rely on it enough. If that makes sense. Dark Shell and Dread Spike, I'm going to put in B tier. I'm going to put these guys high B tier, though. I'll actually put this guy high C tier, I think. No, actually, I think he is B tier. I think he is actually pretty decent. Like, there are I don't think you want to play this guy in, like, main constructed. But in, like, some of the more fun formats, I think, like, we saw a couple days ago, Dread Spike was one of the best top-end finishers in a tournament we had the other day. So I think Dread Spike is actually quite good. Gearwall and Gerzerker. These are just, they have Berserker, but they're not very big. They don't have the health pool that they really need to take advantage of Berserker. That's what I've noticed with a lot of these Berserker cards. They like, I don't think they're going to stick around long enough to really use their effect and get much out of it. I'll put these two in C tier. Like, bottom of C tier. They're not very good. They're not terrible. 3 mana for a 4/4 is, like, okay. 5 mana for a 6/6 is also okay. I mean, even, it's not, like, great. Like, 5 mana for a 6/6 you're trading down with Ocho. But I think we'll put them here. I don't think these two are as bad as, like, some of the guys in D tier. You know, we'll put... I'm going to put this guy in C tier. But he's under the Yeti for sure. He's, like, over here. And Nippa is way higher than this. Nippa actually might be B tier. I'm going to put Nippa in B tier. Hoppa. Hoppa is a Sand Hoppa, 4 mana, 3/4 guard. Going right in D tier. That's where he belongs. Siora, I'm going to say is B tier, bottom of B tier. You know, I'll actually put him in top of C tier. He is a 2-drop that you can, a 1-drop that you can play, which this game doesn't have a ton of quality 1-drops right now. And because he is a halfway quality 1-drop, I think he is acceptable in C tier. And he actually does have a good evolution. He evolves into Siora, which is a 3 mana 5/5, which is actually, like, really good. I would even be willing to say Siora is a tier card, actually. Yeah, I would be willing to say Siora is an A tier card. It's just that Siora, or is it Siora? Dracora, my bad. It's just that Dracora needs to be played in a hyper-aggressive deck, and we don't really see a lot of hyper-aggression right now. But that doesn't mean that this card is bad. And then Dracora evolves into Neptiora. Neptiora is a 7 mana 9/9 Hydroblast. I think this card is just really bad. I'm going to say it's D tier. I'm just going to keep it there. Glimmerchonk, 7 mana 8/8 Retribution. Glimmerchonk is really bad when you compare it to something like Walking. And I don't think you want your Retribution cards to just be dying for free to Hydroblast. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this guy is low C tier. It does have Retribution, and Retribution is a really good mechanic. So for that reason, I think it does, like, a little better, but not great. Next we have Stoneclaw and Rockclaw. Stoneclaw, I would say, goes right next to Digleyfur. But I think Stoneclaw is above Digleyfur because Stoneclaw evolves into Rockclaw, which is actually one of the few 8 health units that I actually think is very good. I would be willing to say Rockclaw is high B tier. It suffers from everything else that from the same thing that a lot of other cards suffer from is dying to Hydroblast, which, like I said earlier, we're gonna say this over and over again. Cards that die to Hydroblast are really hard to justify playing. But having an extra copy of Earthquake in your deck is really good. Earthquake is an excellent mechanic. It cleans up tons of value on the board. So I think high B tier is pretty acceptable for this card. Fontaria and Sylvania. Sylvialina. That's a weird one. Well, Fontaria is a 3-mana 3/4 with regrowth. Understated. It requires that you have the board already. These two are both win more cards. And especially Sylvania dies to Hydroblast. So we're going to say this one is like high D tier. We're going to say this one is low D tier. Like this. And I'm not going to get super in-depth on like cleaning up where is where. So some of the tiers might not be perfectly ordered inside the tier that they're in. Like Glimmerchonk is probably better than these two and better than this. Yeah, I like that. But I'm not going to get too into making sure that these tiers inside themselves are clean. Boomer. Boomer is an 8-mana 9/8 combustion. When you compare him to these two, he's just much more expensive, right? So I would say Boomer is a B tier, or even a C tier. I would say Boomer is a C tier. Maybe like over here. Or like actually maybe like over here. Okay. So now we're at Aquafluffle. Aquafluffle is a really good one-drop. Aquafluffle is actually better than Baba, I would say. And Aquafluffle also has a solid evolution, which is Hydromane. Hydromane is really good. So I'm willing to say Hydromane is a B tier card. So I think this evolution line is quite solid, actually. Just Aquafluffle being a one-drop with Aegis, he's really sticky, especially in formats where there's a lot of Inferno cards. These cheap Aegis cards can go a long way. So I think that's a pretty solid one. Rot Petal is a 2-mana 1/1 with Soul Reaper, and it evolves into a 5-mana 5/5 with Soul Reaper. One of the awkward things about Rot Petal evolving into Witherbloom is the stats that Rot Petal had before it evolved do not transfer over to the new Witherbloom. So you can actually be in a position where evolving your Rot Petal into Witherbloom is actually a downgrade. I don't think it's a common position to be in, but I think it's an awkward position to be in that could come up. So and just 2 mana for a 1/1 is pretty terrible, actually. So I'm just gonna say Rot Petal is D tier, and Witherbloom I'll say is C tier. Cutie Bug, S tier card for sure. Cutie Pillar I would say is B tier. Cutie Bug is excellent, dude. This 2 mana for a 4/5 with upside is really good. It's really flexible. It works with your Hydroblasts as well. Yeah, I think Hydromane goes into B tier. All right, let's see. Screamer, 8 mana 8/8 with Berserker. If you've been paying attention, you know this one's going straight into D tier. Dies to Hydroblast. Does absolutely nothing the turn it's played. And you just give your opponent all the options in the world, and you just get messed up. Voldrake. Okay, so these are actually... Voldrake is actually the first really good Zap card that we've seen. 4 mana for a 6/6 is a great deal. I would say Voldrake might actually be A tier. It's either A tier or B tier. I don't see this card played is the problem at all. So I'm going to say it's B tier. And then the evolution turns into a 9 mana 9/9. The evolution is significantly worse. I would say the evolution is a C tier. Not even a high C tier actually either. Maybe like here. He's not very good. But this one though. This one actually might, the Voldrake Might actually be an A tier. I'm not entirely sure. Alright, Infernix. Another combustion card. Is it combustion? Yeah, it's combustion. So it is a little better than Boomer. I'll just put it right in front of Boomer. Since it's 1 mana cheaper, it is a little bit better. Maybe all the wild cards should be put here for now. Or all the combustions should be put in wild card. But I think as we go from left to right, these combustions are just going to get... Here, we'll actually even move this one here. And we'll rate them at the end, I guess. I'll put the Pyromagus here as well in the meantime. Alright, Massa and Moss Grudge. So Massa is a decent Life Bloom card. He's a little expensive. He's not D tier. I would say he's C tier. I've played this card. I like Massa, but he's not very good. He's definitely better than Walla, but like probably not by a ton. I would say somewhere around here. Massa might be better than Ciora. We'll say Massa's there. And then Moss Grudge, 6 mana or 7 mana 6/9 with Aegis. I mean, suffers from the same issue we keep going over. He dies to Hydroblast and he sucks. So we'll put him over here. Rhinorius. 6 mana 5/7. He gains a ton of health. So this guy is probably like gonna be a 5/10, a 5/13, a 5/16 for 6 mana. That's actually really big. It dies to Hydroblast, but if this thing can stick, it can really become an issue. So I would say it's high C tier. And in a metagame where there's no Hydroblasts, where like people aren't playing Hydroblast very much, it could even make its way into like B or A tier. But for now, I'm gonna say it's C tier. But I do think this card has room to grow. If we ever see a world where people just don't play much Hydroblasts, I think this card can end up being really good. The problem is I think Hydroblast is just too common. Hydroblast really warps the metagame a lot around itself, I think. Wormy evolves into Draconix. So Wormy is a 3 mana 4/3. I really want to like Wormy. His stat line is just so bad though. He gets free traded into by Speedy. He gets free traded into by any of the 4-cost units. So like if you're going first and you play Wormy, if you're playing first or second actually, and you play Wormy on your turn 3, your opponent can just play a 4-cost unit and just rush into it and remove it off of the board as well. So I think Wormy just comes at an awkward spot on the thing. Like if he was 2 mana, like if this guy was a 2 mana 3/5, the same way Speedy is, I think he would be much better. I mean, obviously he would. He'd have more stats and cost less mana. But I just think he's overcosted for the little bit that he does. The nice thing about Wormy is that he evolves into Draconix, which I actually think is a really cool evolution line to have. But I just think it's too low power level. I think both of these cards are just overcosted for what they're doing. They have a cool evolution line, but they're just both overcosted, so they can't really perform. And because of that reason, I'm going to say they're both high C tier, maybe even like low B. I'll say Wormy is C tier, and I'll say Draconix is B tier, is what I'll say. Alright, Snowcub. I actually didn't even realize this card existed until yesterday. I've never seen this card played once in my life. But actually, 4 mana 4/8 is pretty big. It's actually pretty big. I think this card might actually just casually be B tier. But I haven't seen it played. And then this one is D tier. It's 8 mana for a 9/9 provoke. Dies to Hydroblast. That's the end of that. Dreadfur is going to be 3 mana 5/2 with Soul Reaper. 3 mana 5/2 with Soul Reaper. It doesn't have enough health, is the big problem with Dreadfur. I feel like this thing needs to have a bit more health than what it does have. For that reason, is it C tier or is it D tier? That's the hard question. I think it's C tier. I think it is C tier. And then Necrobear is better than Necrobear is better than, where is he? Where did I put the Whalejician? We'll like organize this a little bit more. This guy is better than the Whalejician for sure. Because he's so much cheaper. But he still dies to Hydroblast. So he can't go very high up. Malignox, 8 mana, 7/8, dies to Hydroblast. I'm gonna say Malignox is gonna be in C tier as well. Where this is where a lot of these like halfway decent 8 health units are going, is they just make their way into C tier. They're good. They'd be much more threatening in a world without Hydroblast, and Hydroblast just holds so many of these cards back. Blubba, 5 mana, 5/5 Hydroblast. I'm gonna say that's also C tier, I would think. Probably around Coralfin, but probably better than Coralfin. Right next to Walla, I would say. He goes right behind, underneath Walla though, because actually even Coralfin might actually be better than Blubba, even though, just because like the stat line on Coralfin is better than Blubba, but I think you want your Hydroblast to be on cheap cards that can be played alongside your Cutie Pillars and Cutie Bugs. So we'll put Blubba there. Pyromagus we already put into the wild card section. So Umbrinix and Umbreon. Umbrinix has Psybeam, 4 mana, 4/5 Psybeam. That would go right next to this one here, right? But it would go under, right? Because this is a 3 mana. This one's a 3 mana 4/4. This is a 4 mana 4/5. So we'll put them right next to each other. They both fulfill similar roles. This one, however, though, the Umbreon, we're gonna put in D tier. I don't know where. D tier is a mess. I'm not gonna organize D tier. Like C tier and D tier are just too hard to organize. I'm not looking to go ahead and do that. It's just like it runs that same issue, man. Like we're gonna keep hammering this home. It dies to Hydroblast, therefore it is unplayable. Sorion. Where did we put? We put this guy in B tier. Sorion, I guess, would go into C tier then, because he's just slightly worse than Draconix. He costs an entire extra mana for the exact same stat line. So we'll just put him middle of the pack C tier. Probably better than Digga and Smoko. So like maybe like over here or something like that. Like over here, behind this guy. Gabi, I think, would go about the same spot. Right over here. Maybe a little higher, but I'm not going to stress that. Alright, Glidefin and Swoofin. Swooshark. We already put Galefin in, we did put Galefin already in S tier. I think these 4 mana rush units are just really good. Glidefin, however, not so good. I would put Glidefin top of C tier. I think Nippa is better than Glidefin. Maybe they just are supposed to go right next to each other, actually. We'll put Nippa and Glidefin right next to each other. I think they do fulfill similar roles. They both push 3 damage the turn they're played. And they both evolve into a 4 mana 6/5. So I think they should go into the same spot on the tier list, I would say. Swooshark. 7 mana 9/8. Evolves from Barry. I don't think often Barry is going to stick 2 turns. He doesn't have a ton of health. He's only got 5. There are tons of ways to remove him off the board. So I don't think you're going to get to evolve him very often into this. And even if you do get to evolve him into this, he's got 8 health. And he costs 7 mana. So he's really clunky. So I think we're going to put him in that 7 mana, or that C tier purgatory, where all these 8 health units go that are like halfway decent, but just don't make the cut. And I actually want to see real quick. Yeah, and this one's 7 mana for a 5/8. And this one is 7 mana for a 9/8. So actually, this guy is better than Steelwing. but just barely. Age of King. Or no, Protectron. My mistake. So actually, when I first started playing this game, I thought Protectron was really good. That was before I realized Hydroblast existed. Knowing that Hydroblast exists, your boy goes solidly into the top of D tier, I think. He's just not doing nearly enough to be worth playing anywhere, I think. Capaciton, 8 mana, 9/8 Berserker. I thought this guy had Zap, actually. Yeah, this guy... So far, we've seen all the Berserker cards kind of suck. And then this one is a Berserker card that dies to Hydroblast as well. So he's just going to go here. I guess he has to go a little higher than this guy. But not much. Boopasnoot we'll put in A tier. Right next to the other 1-drops. Boopasnoot has a great evolution as well. I'm going to put his evolution into S tier. In fact, I think Woofa is very good. Woofa gets the job done in a lot of spots. He's a great stat stick. He sits there for multiple turns. He can survive a redemption proc, a retribution proc, my mistake. Yeah, Woofa survives retribution, and that's really good for a 3-drop. There really are very few 3-drops in the game that can do that. And he can actually attack into a retribution unit and still live, which is like, for a 3-drop, that's insanely good value. So we're gonna put Woofa up in S tier. Gnarler, on the other hand, we're gonna put him in C tier, purely because he evolves out of Woofa, so he actually is like a really good evolution line. We'll put him right next to where's your boy Smacky? I'm gonna put him next to Smacky. We put Smacky in B tier. I don't think he deserves to be in... I don't know if... I'm going to put him next to Smacky. But maybe these should both be C tier, actually. I'm going to put them in C tier. I think they are pretty similar, though. They both are like good evolutions. They both evolve from really good units, but they themselves are not very good. Amper Charge. 7 mana, 7/8 rush. He just does a lot of damage. I will put Amper Charge in A tier. That's a lot of damage. 8 damage is quite a bit. Cryo Slice. I think Cryo Slice is A tier. Probably over Amper Charge. Probably over Munta. I'll put him like right over here, I think. Right here. That seems pretty good for Cryo Slice. He's really good at, he's just a big unit. The Blizzard he does is really useful for controlling the board. He's just pretty versatile and pretty solid. Good stat stick. So we'll put him in A tier. Ladacia. Ladacia is going to be an SSS tier common. This card is incredibly good. And he evolves into this card, which I actually forget its name. Dazelle. Dazelle is a 5 mana 8/6 with Psybeam. He evolves from a really good unit, but the problem is you don't want to evolve your Ladacia. Because, you don't want to evolve Ladacia because you want to get the Retribution proc off of it. So it's actually really awkward. This is an evolution that you actually basically never want to play. 8 mana... Or 5 mana 8/6 itself is like pretty decent. So I'll put this card in like B tier. But like it's not very good, I would say. Shadgeist or Wraithshade and Maultide, both big provoke units. This one dies to Hydroblast, and Wraithshade just being an 8/1, like he just dies to Earthquake for free. So Wraithshade's gonna go into D tier. He dies to Earthquake for free. This guy is probably also gonna go into D tier. He just doesn't do anything. 7 mana 8/9, sits on the board and dies for free. I don't think he's very good. And D tier is just getting so full that like I'm not gonna organize these cards. Like these These ones are probably like near the bottom D tier, but I'm not gonna stress it. Age of King. Age of King is the same, basically like Protectron, but just probably worse. So we'll put him lower D tier. He's huge, but he just dies to Hydroblast. These cards that die to Hydroblast are just not good. Ice Mare, Frostmare, triple S tier, I would say. Maybe A tier, but I'm gonna say triple S. This card is 11 points of stats. It's an 11/11 for 5 mana over 3 bodies. 2 of them have Provoke. This card is just so much more flexible to get into play than this. It costs 2 mana less, and it's basically the same. So I think this card goes into SSS tier. Let's see this next card. Elementus. Not 7 mana, 9/8 bless. Pretty bad. I'm gonna just put him in D tier. Business, triple S tier. He goes, Business is better than Amy and what do you call it? Ice Gaze or whatever this thing's called. He's better than the other 2 greeds that we put in S tier. Reason being is he's so much cheaper. He's so much easier to get into play compared to the other 2. So he's just great. Jelly. Jelly we're going to put bottom of A tier. Jelly is the best Hydroblast card in the game, I think. You could argue that Hydromane might be better because its stat line is a little better. But Hydromane costs more mana. Jelly also evolves into Jello. So we're going to put Jello as well. Where did Jello just go? Did I just drop it somewhere? Oh no. Where did Jello just go? Oh, here it is. It's in a wild card. Jello we're going to put middle of B tier, I think. Probably better than these. You know, we're going to put Jello right behind Hydromane. What I like about Jello is that you can target, what do you call it with it? You can Windseeker the Jelly to grab Jello. So, like, in a really budget deck, you can play, like, the Cutie Pillars and the Cutie Bugs. And you can play, like, the Aqua Fluffles and stuff. And what you're able to do a lot of the time is you can Windseek for the next part of the Hydroblast combo over and over again. And just Hydroblast your stuff off the board on repeat. Jellord is really bad compared to Jelly and Jello. I would say Jellord is probably, like, high D tier. He comes from a solid evolution line, which is like the only good thing about him. He does have 8 health, so he dies to Hydro Beam. He dies to Hydroblast. So he just kind of, he struggles, I think. Alright, next we have Gua Prince. Gua Prince also triple S tier. I'm going to put him and Ladacia I'll put right here. Gua Prince is so good, dude. And then the Gua King we're going to put at the top of A tier, or S tier. Maybe actually not the top. Maybe we'll put him like in the middle, like over here. He's significantly more... No, we're going to put him in top of S tier, actually. These 3 cards, like, actually these 4 cards, the Earthquake and the 3 Retribution cards, they have such a commanding presence on the board. They require your opponent to really respect and play around them, and they can completely alter the pace that the game is being played at if they come into play at the right time. So because they end up warping the battlefield around themselves so hard, these cards are just excellent, and I highly recommend playing these cards in like every deck, to be honest. Like, I think at the end of this, if you were to just take a deck and just fill it with only S tier and S tier cards, you'd end up with something like pretty decent. Let's see what's next. Metallion, 6 mana, 6/8 Berserker. Homeboy's gonna go in the purgatory that is D tier somewhere. Not gonna think hard about it. Psymist is gonna go right under Nippa. They have the same effect and the same stat line, but the evolution on Nippa is better because Nippa goes into Barry, whereas this guy goes into Sainami, which is 6 mana, 8/8 Provoke. which is like, it's pretty decent, but it still dies to Hydroblast, as we've seen many a time. So he goes into the C tier, where a lot of these other cards have been going. Berzekiel. 3 mana, 1/8 Berserker. This one's actually probably the best of all of the Berserker cards we've seen so far. He's got a lot of stats, but he just doesn't do anything. Your opponent gets to control exactly what happens. Like, you play this guy, your opponent is the first one to be able to attack into it. So they get to dictate how the Berzekiel is going to get to buff and what the Berzekiel is going to get to kill. And because of that, Berzekiel is going to go into D tier. I just don't think it's good enough. Knife, 2 mana, 4/1 Soul Reaper. I'll put in C tier. We'll put Knife somewhere like in the middle of C tier. Not very good, but for a 2-drop, it's like 2 mana, 4/1 is decent. It will trade with a lot of things pretty well. It's okay. It's acceptable. Not great, but acceptable. Lasarian. The Lasarian is better than the Glimmerchonk, so we'll put the Laser, because it costs 1 less mana. So I'll put him right here. But Lasarian just isn't very good. Glimmerchonk, Lasarian, and the goat. I forget the Retribution goat name. Scare Goat. These cards are only allowed to hang in C tier because they have Retribution. That effect really carries them a lot. Next we have the eggs. I'm going to put the eggs in wild card for now. It's really hard to say. I think it's really hard to put the eggs in a tier, because the eggs are very they're very good. The eggs are incredibly good. And in the right deck, they can actually be very powerful and very dangerous to play against. But they also are very dependent on like what that element has access to. Like, I think the ice egg is one of the strongest. I think the fire egg is really strong as well. I'm gonna put these in wild card, but just because they're very high variance, but they're incredibly powerful. Like, these should potentially be an A or S tier, but I don't want to commit to putting them anywhere quite yet. We'll think about that a little later. Let's see. Doge. It's just a 3 mana 4/3 bless. It's like C tier, I guess. High C tier, maybe. High C tier seems fine. Mortalis and Voltarion, we'll say, are going to go into B tier somewhere. Like right over here, maybe. The Angels died a Hydroblast, so it's really hard to play the Angels. They just get kind of stuffed. All right, and now we're up to some of these otherworldly cards. And that's mostly what we have left. So, Fortifications is 3 mana for giving all your normal units +3/+3. There are a lot of good normal units. You have Munta, you have Ocho, you have Business. I think Fortifications is probably one of the better otherworldly cards. I would probably put it like in B tier. Somewhere around there. The Sanctum is kind of doing the same thing, except it's 5 mana. It is a bit harder to play. I'll put the Sanctum and the Academy in C tier. These otherworldly cards, don't mark my words on where I'm putting these, because these cards are very dependent on, like, as we get more and more cards for each element, these cards are going to get better. And that's the same thing for these eggs, is they're just going to get better as more cards come out for them. So I wouldn't hang on where I'm placing these all too much. But the normal ones are probably the best, because there are so many normals, whereas there's only, like, there's Fortification, Sanctum, and Academy for normal, whereas all the other elements only get 1. And Sanctum and Fortifications and Academy can all buff each other. So like if you have a Sanctum in play with an Academy, the Sanctum would become a 4/12 and the Academy would become a 5/12, right? So these work in tandem with each other, whereas none of the others will work in combination with each other. The fire one is probably not as good. I would say the fire one maybe goes in like the bottom of C tier. I think these, I don't even feel comfortable honestly like rating these, because these cards, the rating won't hold up for these fortification cards. As more and more cards come out, I'm sure every single one of these, maybe not every single one of these, but as we get more and more cards, I'm sure all of these fortifications are going to see play in their own deck somewhere. So let me... I think we're actually just going to put... can I add another row? Add a row below. There we go. Gets better with more cards. Yeah, I think we're going to put all of these here, to be honest. I know it's a bit of a cop-out. And I'm missing one. Where's the one that I'm missing? Here it is. It's in B tier. Like, I know this is a bit of a cop-out answer that I'm giving you guys here for these, but I just think that these eggs, these like cards that care about the element, these are all excellent cards. It's just very hard to rate where they go because it's very contextual of what the format looks like. So I don't think it's fair to put these anywhere, really. And then White Lily, we'll close it all off. We'll put White Lily in S tier. And then let's get rid of the wild card tab. So for now, I think Fire On is triple S tier as long as it hits. We're going to say as long as these cards are hitting consistently. We're going to put them where they go as long as they're hitting consistently. And then just keep in mind that when they miss, these cards are terrible. So we're going to put Ignisteel in S tier, Fire On in triple S tier. This guy will probably go like in B tier. Boomer can probably go like top of C tier. Pyromagus can probably go also top of C tier. Nah, this actually, yeah, I think this is fair. And then this guy can go somewhere in A tier, I think, like over here. And we'll just get rid of this row. And this is our tier list. Let's zoom out a little bit. Something like this is our tier list. So yeah, thank you all for joining me for making this. Hope you all enjoyed this. Let me know if you agree with my tier list or if you disagree with anything. And that will be that. Thanks for joining, everyone. I'll see y'all later.